Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras, bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Noach, Noah, and of course the central story of the Torah portion is the flood. But I'd like to focus on a short story that happens at the very end of the Torah portion, at the beginning of chapter 11. And this is a story, it's totally 9 verses. That's it. Of course, I'm referring to the story of the Tower of Babel. But I'd like to focus, pay attention to some of the words, especially the first verse that introduces this story. And this is my own translation, literally from the Hebrew. And it came to pass that all the earth was one language and singular things. Now, those last two words, singular things, the Hebrew words themselves, dvarim achadim. Davar is either a thing or something that's spoken, a spoken work, a saying, a statement. Achadim comes from the word achad, one, singular. What this is coming to tell us, of course, we understand the beginning. Everybody at that time spoke one language. But here the key is the last two words, singular things. In other words, not just that they spoke the same language, but they said the same thing. There was a unity of thinking and a unity of speaking that went way beyond the fact that they all spoke the same language. And that, of course, might be positive. You know, many times, how often have we hoped that, would it that everybody agreed with us, whoever us is, right? Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't we have peace on earth if we could all agree on the important things? And yet here, this is a very negative story that begins with exactly that presumption. Everybody is saying and thinking the same thing. Anyway, of course, these people get together. And by the way the story is written, it's written in a sort of mythical way. Mythical not in the sense that it is not true. Mythical in the sense that it portends something far larger and far more significant than the story itself. And one of the ways that we see that is that there's no individuals named here. Someone said to his friend, it's people. It's a very general type of story that refers to a very specific event, but that already tells us this is an archetypal event. This is a very significant event. It tells us something very important about humanity. Anyway, of course, we know the story. They decide, let's make some bricks and build a tower. And the way they define it in verse 4, define what it is they want to do. Let's build a city and a tower, and its head will be in the heavens, and we will make for ourselves a name. Na'aseh lanu shem. We will make for ourselves a name, lest we be dispersed across the entire earth. What does that mean? Make for ourselves a name. That seems to be the purpose of this whole thing. Now, our sages have said that essentially what they were doing here was fighting, creating a rival to God, building a tower that would reach to the heavens, to this concept of where God is, even though we know God is everywhere, but to rival God, to build a tower that would then put man way up there where God is. And that's interesting because really this is sort of a play on words, because our custom is to refer to God as Hashem, the name. So, in a way, what this is saying is we will create our own name. We are not going to be subject any further to the name, God, creator of the universe. We will make our own name. And I think that's a very interesting perspective and may well explain why God is so angry at this whole initiative. But I would say, though, on its simplest level, what they're trying to do is create a presence, a very significant presence. We say to create a name for ourselves. They want a tower that will portray power and glory, and lest we be distributed over the world. I think what this is basically was referring to that as humanity will grow and spread, we still need a central place. We still need a central authority. We still need to ensure that we, whoever we is controlling things. And that, of course, would fit in very well with the first verse, where they all have the same language, but they also say the same things. And it creates an impression here of a sort of dictatorship. This is not, let's get together, let's do things together, because human beings by their very nature never agree on everything. There's always going to be discussion and dispute. So as soon as you have a situation where everybody's saying the same thing and they're looking for something very centralized, this one tower from which will kind of radiate or control possibly the entire world, no matter how spread out people can be, that already sets out a lot of alarm signals that this is not just a nice little initiative. So whether you see this as a theological fighting against God or a sort of tyrannical desire to control humanity, in any case, these are very, very bad things. And of course, God's response to this is that he is going to mix up their languages. So instead of having one language, they will have many languages, and then, of course, God disperses them throughout the world. Now, this is the story that explains the birth of nations, the biblical story for the birth of nations, and it tells us that for whatever reason, and the exact reason isn't clear, I presented two interpretations of this story, but for whatever reason, God decided that one nation, one language is not good, and he distributed people all over the world. And I think this says something very fundamental to us as human beings. On the one hand, we are all interested in unity, but on the other hand, unity can never come at the expense of muzzling the variety of opinions and the variety of perspectives. And this is something that when God saw from the beginning, whether it was done from a theological point of view, whether it was done from a political point of view, as soon as everybody is thinking and saying the same thing, that in and of itself is a danger. We need to find ways to work together, but we need to do it despite the fact that we have different perspectives, we have different languages, and we have different places where we are living. Through this incident, then, comes the need for a separate nation of Israel. And that, of course, is what we will be discussing in next week's portion. The rise of Abraham and ultimately laying the foundation for the nation of Israel. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'd like to be sure you're getting all of our video content. So just click on the subscribe button below as well as on the notification bell, and that way you will have easy access to all our material. We look forward to staying in touch with you. God bless you, and have a wonderful day.